Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a plus 26 Mechagon Junkyard for you, and I am playing as Windwalker Monk. Once again, I am playing with Blue, and the other three people are pugs. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I do not do very well in this key, especially the first half of this key, and I intend to go over quite a number of the deaths that I do suffer. I will do my best to explain why they happened. After some deal of analysis, I think I have a pretty good idea of what exactly went wrong in this key and what could have gone better. Starting off with the first pull, I think the tank didn't do a very good job at communicating exactly what they were trying to pull. For the first set here, what I'm really used to with tanks is there is a type of focal point in which a bunch of mobs are going to be gathered, and they're actually going to be gathered straight into that one point. And that is where you can, as a DPS player, begin your opener. It's where if you're a healer, you can slap down any AoEs, etc. And you can see from that first pull, like, this doesn't really happen. As a matter of fact, I wound up dying because the tank still doesn't quite have threat on everything. They've kind of gone from like Timbuktu and back, and I'm not really too pleased with the way this opening pull happens there. For the second pull, we're starting to get not like overly ambitious here, but we're kind of like under some assumptions here that people really kind of like know what's going on with this monstrosity here. And one thing that is probably the most critical error for me is that I come into this without a detox. So, and that's going to come back to bite me pretty hard over this entire wing here. So the monstrosity is actually going to do their consume rather soon, and that's not going to be very good for me, actually. So what's going to wind up happening is I'm here, and I actually have this debuff now where I'm actually absorbing all the healing, and I'm just taking damage. And as you can see, I just die, and I'm actually like very frustrated with that. So I'm not even going to take the 10 seconds. I'm just going to uncheck that, and I'm just going to run back. So that's basically probably one of the biggest errors of this entire run for me, is just ultimately it just comes down to just not being the correct spec. I would like to note that it's generally a non-issue when I'm playing as Mistweaver, since Mistweaver monks can dispel diseases, and that is what that dot is. It is a disease. So it's one of those things. There are some people that seem to be under the impression that the debuff is something that has to be healed through. That's not true. It is a disease and it can be dispelled. I'm really playing with like a lot of emotions right now. Emotions are just kind of like running high at this point. Like, that's the second bot that I'm taking right now, and I'm really just thinking to myself, okay, like, just don't die again. Just do what you gotta do. Stay alive. Do the things that help the key right now. Can I just get back on this horse and see what happens? Things are going pretty smoothly for the next couple pulls, though. I'm not too pleased with my DPS, though. I think a lot of it has to do with just we are having this chain pull, and I'm just showing up very late to the pull, and I'm also just very afraid. Since I've already died multiple times, I really just don't want to keep dying. It's right there is actually one of my favorite things to do, is just wait for that slime wave to come out and immediately use paralysis on it in order to stop it like right in its tracks. It's always just a very satisfying thing to do. So up until now, things are going pretty smoothly. We got our final monstrosity here. And just as it casts its consume, I run out, miscalculate where the demon hunter is going, and of course there's a puddle there. We got carrion swarm plus the sleepy puddle is right next to it, so I wind up having to go this awkward long way around, and it's a complete and utter mess right there. This is about to die. I'm getting a little greedy right now. I hop on out once again, have the debuff, no heals, no dispels, and I am dead once again. So this has definitely been a rough key, but if things could not have gotten any worse, they're about to. Watch very closely as I pop my SEF. Take a good look at one of my clones in the bottom right of the screen. Guess where that goes? If you guess the boss, you guessed correctly. The boss winds up getting pulled by one of my clones, and as I fixate, it comes right back into the frame, but it's too late. The boss is already on me of all people, and because the druid is healing me, the boss immediately goes on to our healer, and we both die. At this point, it's pretty clear to me that this dungeon just has my number. There's just various mistakes that I'm making. I'm not spec'd into the right thing, which really could be helping me stay alive. I'm just doing things that are filled with bad luck, but at the end of the day, it's really about persistence right here. Like, we get back on the horse, no one has left. We're killing this boss. We're moving forward. It's not over till the fat lady sings. So, you know, we worked really hard from a 22 plus 22 key plus 24. Like, we've earned our way to be here. So to just kind of like throw our hands up before this boss just wouldn't make a lot of sense. So, you know, I'm going through this without any sort of bots whatsoever. I think as far as the DPS goes, I'm definitely holding my own. It's really not like, you know, I feel like I'm holding the guild back too much right now. It's just that the fight does take a little bit of extra time just without these bots. Thankfully, the other two DPS did not die in that butt pull. So, you know, it's just kind of making sure to avoid all green swirly. Is if there's an explosive, if I could help out, I want to, as much as I do as I get higher up in these keys. It's just one of those things that it's really moving more to the healer's job and not the DPS's job. I think I do get like a couple of them, but that's really it. To a very pleasant surprise, we wind up killing the boss without any issues, and we are ready to kind of get out of that hellhole of a wing inside of Mechagon and onto a completely new one with different forms of trash. So hopefully I could just get back into the swing of things, deal with different mechanics maybe that I'm just more better equipped or better suited to handle at this point. So I guess that's one of like the nice saving graces about Mechagon is it's not really the same dungeon throughout. The trash is fairly dynamic. What was really nice here is that the Demon Hunter decides to LOS pretty much everything and keep everything nice and grouped up, which I think really allowed me to not have to think too much about my positioning. There are some explosives that do get off here, which is does cause our mage to get potted right there. But as I was saying, we not having to worry too much about the position allowed me to just kind of focus mostly on doing DPS at this point. I will definitely take you through what my mental state was, is that my hands were pretty shaky. I had a history of dying throughout this dungeon, and that was definitely still with me mentally for each of these pulls. And as we get ready for the Zul'Gamux pull, this is where I'm starting to really kind of tell myself not to mess anything up here, just kind of just praying. And I think there's a bit of self-doubt absolutely in this. I see that the AoE from Zul'Gamux was going out, so I get very little uptime on anything here, and once that's done I can get back in there. But as soon as that happens, we see some more red swirlies on the ground, and like very similar to the end of that grimrail depot that we just did. I'm not really focused on dealing as much damage as I can. I'm really just trying to survive. And there's definitely a bit of a mentality shift that has pretty much been ingrained in me at this point throughout the run here. The two hardest pulls have already been handled at this point, so this double is very, very simple to do. I'm not really sure why, in hindsight, is really 2020. I just decided to pop CDs here. I guess I just kind of wanted like a win on the meters or something. Things that melt very, very quickly, obviously, thanks to some of those CDs, but realistically, this was a bad call. And those CDs, such as when Trinket, like that really should have waited for the boss, which is about to come up right now. So we're getting ready to pull the boss right here. It's fairly clear. I don't have any CDs other than statue. Not like that gets me anything good, because as soon as it goes down, the boss moves. So not exactly a great play. I probably would have been better off even just specking out of that, to be honest, for that. Try to get some of these tase interrupts here, but I know some of them do wind up getting missed. It doesn't seem too lethal. I will knock on wood for that. Hopefully that does not come to bite me later. I will admit I was very afraid about that bolt buster right there, that I wasn't actually going to dodge it, so I was actually quite proud of myself that I managed to wake up and pay attention, not get hit by it. Same thing with that bolt buster. The gigantic pink elephant is just obscuring this tiny gnome, and I'm not entirely sure where he's facing, so just figured, let me get out of the way. This is one of the few times Megatase has actually targeted me all season, so hey, just getting a mechanic right on the first time, or if it's been a while, always seems like a good win here. Tase goes off here, but there's really not too much damage that goes out and as soon as she goes down, I immediately die again. And at this point, it's kind of comical that, of course, I'm dead again. We do wind up losing the druid right here due to a DC immediately after the boss, which definitely had quite a few of us worried. So you'll see that the druid is pretty much AFK this entire time. At first, we're not really sure if they're fairly angry with us dying. Maybe they're just not satisfied with the way the run's going. Either way, they're not here, so we die here, the mage dies here. I believe the demon hunter does live and is able to finish off everything. We're kind of concerned about this. There's one of two options at this point. Either the run is about to just get called, or I walk out of here, swap to Mistweaver, and we continue. The mage right there is kind of beckoning me to keep pressing on. It looks like the general thought process here is let's just clear up as much trash as we can. See when the druid does come back. It doesn't show in my unit frame, but it probably will very shortly, that they have gone offline. So we do see that is the case, and I immediately just start running out to swap over to Mistweaver. And again, it's just one of those things. We've made it this far. We're not going to call it right here. I do not notice that the druid does actually come back online as I'm activating my specialization, getting ready to swap. Just before the spec does get activated, the druid does come back online. They do apologize. So, and I think this kind of inspires a little bit of giddy up in both the druid as well as kind of the rest of the group, because I feel like from this moment onward, the healing is just kind of on a different level, and the group together just plays a bit better than the previous two wings. I have to give some kudos to both the mage and the demon hunter for sticking this through the way that they have up until now. Things have been fairly rocky with this run, but with a little bit of extra coordination is what's happening in this wing. It just seems that the run definitely is improving, and we're just really starting to play a lot better. There's a bit more direction being given by the tank at this point. Main idea at this right now is just to kill some time, get some trash done, and we're actually going to wind up using Lust on this next boss, so we have plenty of time, really, just this one, and then we have the final one left. So we're just not taking any wild chances right now. It's very chill and relaxed run, so at this point, like, a lot of the nerves start to really just settle in. And the main thing is just, if you can survive this next boss, you can survive anything here. We've made it past the more difficult trash with Gunker. We've already gone through the easier boss. We've done the Zolkamux pull. We've cleared up the trash here. Now is just kind of a raw heal check. So there's really not a whole lot of pressure leading into this room right here. You can see the tank continues to take things fairly slow. The pulls aren't overly crazy right now. This is almost pretty much exactly how I would pull this on about like a 20 or a 22 range. So to see this happening in a 26 starts to feel much more like we're in familiar territory, and everything is very short and manageable. Know that the tank does go off to pull a couple more things. Not too concerned with him. Know that tank is perfectly capable to keep themselves alive. They make one pretty decent pull here, but for like most of this particular wing, a lot of the pulls look scarier than they really are, since a significant portion of these guys don't even have a threat table anyway. It's just, you gotta do your best to just kind of stack up and nuke these guys down. Things are targeting you, just pop a defensive, but historically I've found that I've just not really needed it. I'm fairly certain this is probably far more lethal on fortified weeks with throw trash, but for this week's perspective, it's not too shabby. So right there, the tank does call for lust, and it's pretty straightforward. Just before we do anything, just dodge the shockwaves, get your interrupts. I'm responsible for circle right now, so it's a pretty relaxed pull leading up to the boss. And the mage and blue and the tank are talking roughly about the usage of lust here. The tank does point out we do have 13 minutes, so a use of lust here would mean that it can get used later potentially if we go very late into, like, we're talking maybe a double phase on the final boss here. Do use Touch of Karma here on this first wave. I do know that things are pretty lethal. I want to save Diffuse Magic for the charge smash, make sure I'm not taking too much damage. I do wind up using it, get my butt over to a pylon as soon as I can, just to help get as many of them active as possible so the trash could just be cleared up and we can really focus on the boss. For the next rumble, I will have Dampen Harm. I'm feeling that it's extremely important to help out the healer in as much ways as possible. There's some stuff from the ceiling that's falling down that you need to dodge. The healer's also going to have to dodge that. Do not want to have to give my healer more work than they have to do. And unfortunately, it does look like I actually used that earlier than anticipated, and I take a lot of damage during this rumble. But I think I might have been a little afraid on the charge smash initially. I do survive. I think I do wind up popping a couple one or two instant vivifies there throughout this fight, just to make sure that I am staying alive. Got one charge smash, and it's just, alright, stay alive, hopefully. I do take some time to channel Fleshcraft just to be on the safe side here. I am not really in gung-ho DPS mode, as it's abundantly clear. I'm just trying to stay alive. And just like that, the boss does fall over. It takes a bit of time before we finally get to pulling this last bit of trash that we need. We had a pretty bad pat earlier on, and I think it might have been quicker just to kill it, if you're asking me, but we opt to just catch our breath, hold up, and wait for it to pat back, and we pull this last bit. I pop a bunch of CDs here and just nuke it all down. I think at some point Blue asks how the Demon Hunter stopped the rapid fires, but I think when she hops back and sees this video, she'll see how fast we nuked that trash that really didn't have enough time to get a full cycle rapid fire. So we're talking about potentially waiting for lust or anything. We got about almost 7 minutes, just under 6:30 left, but we opt to just go, and we will wind up two-phasing this encounter. There's really no point in taking any sort of chances, but to be fair, this is going to be our one and only chance on this. Really looking for here is Fulminating Zap. Once that goes off, I'm immediately using Diffuse Magic to help reduce that damage. I'm just not going to take any chances with this fight. Also looking for these little shock bots that spawn on the ground, throw down a Ring of Peace just to help out. As soon as they get a little close, I use Night Elf, Nightborn, Racial, rather, to help slow them down. Get another fulminating zap here. I don't use anything for it, and I think if this was any higher of a key, I probably should have. I think Damn and Harm might have saved me on that last tick, as well as an instant Vivify, but I think I really got lucky there. So I wind up failing this first jump here. Seemed a little odd. My hands are noticeably still shaking because I know that this run could very much be over any second here, one little mishap here, but I'm also just noticing that I've been here multiple times before, and if this were 10 levels lower, I would not be afraid of this whatsoever. We hop down here, I pop everything that I have, including agility pot, and I just try to nuke this boss as much as I can, get as much damage as I can. I'm really thinking we might be able to phase it based on my initial UI, and that's parallel to my unit frames, but looking over at the plater profile, that tells a very different story that we can see, and we come very, very close, I think, with shocks, with more zap bots. That was probably a kill. Unfortunately, the healer does die, and this is exactly what I was afraid of, and I'm just sitting here kind of thinking this run might be over unless hopefully there is a B-res, and surely enough right there you see the Demon Hunter does get an engineering B-res off, and the healer is back in action. So now it's just a matter of survive. Again, that is just kind of the theme of the second half of this dungeon, is just survive. I have no idea how the Shockies did not get me as close as I was to them, but I am able to get that Ring of Peace off. Mage is potted right here, which is definitely forcing tensions to run very high. I see some explosives. I'm really helping them out here. Again, I cannot stress this enough. The primary objective here is just live. If we survive this phase, we have timed this key, and this would be a huge deal for us. And that is looking more and more to be the case as this does in fact go down. At this point, I have a pretty big grin on my face, and I tell Blue that we have all but surely have successfully timed our first 25 and up key of the season. As we wrap up the final hack, we head on down, haul ass as fast as we can, and just touch of death this thing once, and we are done. Key done, season done. 25 plus 25 plus 26 is finally under the belt. This is just much adversity here, but I just really hope this goes to show that even when runs get fairly sloppy, you just gotta be persistent, and good times are gonna come your way.